Yeah, 1 2 1 2. 1 2 1 2. Mic check. Hey, can y'all hear me out there? Hey. Against all odds. 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 Against all odds.
The podcast.
Shout out to Rockhound Detroit Lions, man. My pride.
All right, good morning. Welcome to the Rise and Grind Morning Show. Appreciate you guys jumping in with us this morning. Thank you for finding, stumbling upon us, whatever it is. Do us a quick favor, like, share, subscribe. Let's get those likes up this morning, if you would, please. It certainly helps the channel. And obviously, if you want to watch your Detroit Lions climb to the Super Bowl this year, this is going to be the place to watch it happen. All of your news, notes, injuries, updates, you name it, from around the league. And, of course, your Detroit Lions is right here on Rockhound Detroit Lions, Rise and Grind Morning Show. And then throughout the season, I promise you there will be a lot more content this year once we get rolling into the season. So today, we're going to do a quick recap on Trey Hendrickson and Brad Holmes and the F them picks conversation. Brad actually had said something about it, and we're going to highlight it this morning. 53 cuts, they are just a week away. We're talking next week, Tuesday at 4 p.m. All of your teams will have the 53-man sorted. And right now, the biggest question is the quarterback number 2 position for the Detroit Lions on this roster? Or will it come from another team? Is Hendon Hooker safe at all? Eric did a little deep dive on some information with that, so we're going to dive into that this morning as well. Talk about the injury update, Ahmed Hassanin update, and a whole lot more. We're going to try to fit it all in. And then we've got a press conference at 10 o'clock today with Dan Campbell, so we'll probably transition to that when Eric is transitioning out. So let's get rolling. Good morning, Eric. How are you today?
Really good this morning. How you doing, Will?
I'm doing all right, man. Just rolling with the brownouts over here. I get so sick of having these storms kill us in the middle of the night, or something killed my internet and I didn't catch it. So got a late start today, but we're here, we're rolling, and we got a ton of stuff to talk about. I doubt we're going to get to it all, but we're going to start with a quick injury update on Ahmed Hassanin. So yesterday, at some point, I don't remember when it was 10:45, 11 o'clock, whenever, or 12:45, whenever Dan came on, he had given us the idea that Ahmed Hassanin was going to be out for a while or a bit. And then local media, beat writers and that were reporting that it could be indefinite, it could be season ending. Nobody really knew, right? And as I kind of read, between the trees there, between the tea leaves, it did not seem very lengthy of an injury, like no surgery was required. That was the guess. We heard some information, obviously, from some friends of the show and didn't want to release it, right? I wanted the Lions to kind of get it out there first. I don't want to put anybody in a bad spot. But what we understand is obviously no surgery. And then Ahmed backed that up last night. And he put that in, I believe it was an IG post where he said no surgery required. He's obviously going to come back stronger than ever. The question is, are we talking 4 to 6 weeks? Are we talking 6 to 8 weeks? And that's a good question, right? What is it? Is, by week 8, is he going to be back after that? Is he going to be back before that? What happens with the roster between now and then? And yesterday we saw this giant knee-jerk reaction, well, probably since Sunday or late Saturday night, that Lions fans wanted to revisit this Trey Hendrickson thing, because then, of course, the Bengals put this out that they're willing to accept some sort of an offer. It's been speculated, a first or a second, and then a player that is commensurate, to the type of player that Hendrickson is, or someone that can help that team, right? Obviously, Trey wants a big contract. This is a giant nothing burger for many reasons, but I'll put it to you this way. I listened to a podcast that I listen to all the time, and Pat Kirwan had mentioned that the Bengals are simply just doing this to put the pressure on Trey. But at the same time, they said not one team is going to offer what the Bengals are looking for. Nobody. If you're talking a first, a second, and a player, and a giant contract, imagine what that does to your roster. Now, we've beat this horse, kicked this dog numerous times, so I'm not going to revisit the whole thing. But if you're talking about I've seen now, oh, let's trade Jack Campbell and a first round pick. And come on, are we serious? Like, just think about that for a moment. You want to trade a top 10 linebacker who's on a rookie deal that's going to cost less than half as much as what Trey's going to cost. Alex Anzalone's on his last year. We don't have another middle linebacker to take that role over. Alex could right now, or Grant Stewart could probably fly in there. But a huge drop-off in production would happen. I don't see Brad, selecting Jack in the first round, 18 overall, and then turning around in 3 seasons and trading him for a 31-year-old defensive end that wants to make $40 million a year. Makes 0 sense. So the quick math on this is you're going to go upside down $160 million to Trey versus, maybe 75, 80 million to Jack Campbell when he gets paid. You're going to lose an additional second round pick potential in that trade conversation. It just doesn't make any sense. It's a huge swing of momentum. And I'm not sure that Jack Campbell is less important than Trey Hendrickson. I would say that Jack Campbell is way more important to have on this team for the depth, obviously as a starter, but than Trey Hendrickson would ever be. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense, right? It doesn't. Then then Brad Holmes was asked about, the whole interest in this situation. And what I've gathered from this article is on the Kay Adams podcast is Adams said this. Well, he's got back-to-back 17-plus seasons. Sound interesting to you, Brad? And Brad said, sacks are good. He didn't say sacks are great. He didn't say sacks are the end-all, be-all. He didn't say sacks are the number one thing. He didn't say that we need more sacks. He just said, sacks are good. Then he says, or Adam says, an edge potentially? The world wants to know. Brad Holmes says, sacks are good. We have a pretty good one right now, though. Right? We have a pretty good one. One. Put the emphasis on the one. They only need one, and that's Aiden Hutchinson. They don't need 2 guys that can do the same thing as Aiden Hutchinson. Of course, everyone would love to have something like that. I would love to have 2 quarterbacks. I would love to have 3 running backs. I would love to have 6 wide receivers. I would love to have 5 left tackles playing on the offensive line. Right? Not going to happen. Right? Because you got your one. The one that you need, which is your starter, which is supposed to play, 85 to 95% of the snaps. Goes on to ask some more questions, but here's what he said. Brad Holmes says, before that exchange, though, Holmes had this to say about the trades in general, I guess, but that was me and Dan Campbell's vision and plan from the get-go, is to build through the draft. And that's why they've been able to stay consistent. But no, we're not scared to make a trade. I learned a lot from Les Snead and the F them picks philosophy with the Rams. Okay, what does that mean? Well, he goes on to say a little bit more and says, and if it comes, I don't think we've shown a time where we've been scared to really do something or make a move, but it's always going to be calculated, and there's got to be a little bit of strategy behind it. So is he afraid to make a trade? No. Is he thinking about adding Trey Hendrickson? Probably not. Is he giving it 2 seconds of thought? Absolutely. But I think at the end of the day, he's probably coming to the same place that I am. It doesn't make any sense. It wouldn't make any sense. And my question to Brad would be, what do you mean by you learned a lot from the F them picks philosophy of Les Snead? Right? What did you learn from that? Well, they traded Matthew Stafford, or they traded Jared Goff and a couple of first-round picks, right, for Matthew Stafford. Who won? Who won that scenario? That's the question I'm asking. Who won?
Oh, yeah. I think Detroit did.
Well, hell yeah, we won.
Because
they got their Super Bowl, right? And who knows if Jared Goff would have done that for him that year. Could have.
Yeah.
Could have. Right? Especially with what we've seen out of Jared Goff. He absolutely could have. But if he's seen that the other team won hand over fist, the Lions have added J-Mo out of that deal. I think we added Jack Campbell out of that deal, Hendon Hooker out of that deal, Sam Laporta out of that deal, Brian Branch. I don't know. There was like 3-4 guys we added out of that deal. I can't remember all of them. But we added starters, some of the best football players in the league today, out of that deal. And so I think what he's trying to say here, emphasize, is I learned a lot from the F them pick strategy, meaning probably not a good idea. Probably not a good idea to F those picks and to sell your future down the road. The Rams haven't been back yet, have they? They haven't. Have they been back to the playoffs? Yes. Have they exited early? Yep. So it didn't work in their favor. That one player did not help them go back to back Super Bowls or back to back Super Bowls. It got them one opportunity, and they were lucky enough to win that one, right? That Super Bowl, they damn near lost it. So I don't think the philosophy works. And again, I'll end it with this. If Pat Kirwan and Jim Miller are saying, and they talk to the GMs every day or every week, right? They've got big time connections. Nobody is offering. No one will come close to what they're offering for Trey. And the reason why they're doing it is kind of going through the motions. Like, see, we tried to trade you. We tried to trade you before the season started. And all Trey has to do right now is to sit out until week 11. And then he can play the last 6-7 games of the season, and he'll accrue another season, and he won't have his contract told, right? Told meaning, it goes to the next year. Like they get an extra year out of him. He could sit out that long, right? Which I believe is past the trade deadline too. So those are your options. They don't look bright. I think that Brad Holmes has done it right. And I don't think he's going to do anything wild right now. But we will talk about a few players that are potentially going to get cut today. Your thoughts, overall thoughts on this, and let's try to put this thing to bed nice and tight.
The only thing I'm thinking is really going to happen is that Trey Hendrickson is not going to play week 1.
Right.
That is the only thing I'm thinking right now. I don't think he's going to be traded to the Packers. I don't think he's going to be traded to the Bears. I don't think he's going to the Lions. I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think anyone wants him. I don't think the Patriots want him. Who's going to pay $35 to $40 million for an edge rusher that's over 30 years old? No one. It's not going to happen. I don't care what his production has been for the last 4 or 5 years. It doesn't matter. The fact that he's over the hill.
Over the hill. 30 is over the hill now? Man, I'm old.
It is for NFL players, believe me. And listen, remember when running backs would hit 30 and no one would touch them?
Shit, dude. They'd hit 26 and no one would touch them.
Exactly. So this is going to come down to Trey Hendrickson missing games, and it's going to end up being a nothing burger in the end because he'll come back and play once he starts missing those checks.
I don't know what the fines are. I'm not going to dig into that. I can't remember what the fine structure is for him, but it's obviously going to pale in comparison to what he's already making. And I guess to kind of piggyback on what you were saying there, I do think people want him. I absolutely think that there's some teams that would want him. However, I think the issue is they're not willing to pay this ransom, that they're asking. I think that's the issue for the Bengals, is it's too high of a ransom. And look, it makes sense. I wouldn't do it either. Clearly, you know my position on that. So I'm going to keep that one tucked away. There's some options out there. And with the news on Ahmed Hassanin being a little bit brighter, that this is potentially just a rehab thing and we'll see you back, no surgery needed, then we're fine. It goes to kind of what I said in my video. That's why I made the video that way, that I think that I'm totally missed the whole point in it, but the Lions could stash Ahmed right now because whether he has an injury or doesn't, right? An injury happened, and they could definitely stash him right now, leave him, on a list. He can come back. You could designate him as one of the 2 IRs to come back. You could also put him on, the the list, but we have enough in this room already. We have enough in this room to do what they need to do. Honestly, all you need is Marcus Davenport and Aiden Hutchinson to stay healthy, and you need 2 guys behind them for some rotation. You still have some other guys on this line that can play on the outside. Josh Paschal's still coming back. So let's think about it in terms that Josh Paschal's, from what I understand, is going to be back this next week, upcoming this next week, like by Monday. They're going to start activating him. Once he's back, he's an immediate upgrade over Ahmed Hassanin right now, right? To be able to play on the outside. He got a lot of snaps last year on the edge, a lot more than he typically does. And talking about another guy that can crush the can, he can do it. He can set the edge, take care of the run. He's not going to get after the passer. You know, now that Aiden's back, potentially you might see more out of Josh Paschal. But let's not forget, we already had a problem bringing guys back onto this roster that are currently on lists. So we have a very good situation. I think that the roster is in great shape. And I'm just not going to sell this hype and hope. You know, it gets old. It really gets old. Just let the team do what they got to do, man. I think they're fine. I think they're going to be fine. Do you have anything short, quick that you want to do outside of an injury update? I'll do an injury update real quick. Obviously, Khalil Dorsey, as I was mentioning in my 53 the other night, and after the Ahmed injury, I said, you know, he doesn't have to come back right now. He doesn't. 24 hours later, Brad Holmes like, yep, we're activating him. Or Dan Campbell, we're putting him up. You know, he's going back onto the field, see what he can do. I don't think the Lions necessarily need him, but if he's ready to go, they at least want to get him some snaps and get him some opportunity to see where he's at before they have to make, you know, any sort of a decision on him for the season. So he's back. Now they activated him off the physically unable to perform list. He has been out since breaking his leg last December. Campbell said that Dorsey will do individual and group drills on Monday with the hope that he can join the team drills later in the week. Dorsey adds depth, obviously, to a thin secondary. He was one of the Lions' best special teams players last season as a gunner. He was one of the best. I think we have some good players now that can fill that role. Obviously, Kirby Joseph still remains out with his knee soreness. This one concerns me a little bit. I know it hasn't concerned the Lions, particularly at this moment, but Dan described it as minor. Being out a couple of weeks, I don't think is very minor. What is the knee soreness? Are we talking some tendonitis here? Does he have tendinopathy going on? Who knows? That stuff can flare up at any point in time throughout the season, and he could be down. That's not good, right? He hasn't practiced in more than a week so far. Dan Campbell said it's something he's been dealing with a little bit, so he won't be out there today, and we're hoping to get him back later in the week. That's the hope right now. We don't feel like it's something, a major problem. It's just something we're trying to manage right now and get it calmed down. So the term calm down, clearly there's some inflammation going on there. There's something going on in that knee that is angry at Kirby Joseph. As far as Morris Norris, the Lions still have not made any determination yet on if he will rejoin or return with the Lions later on this season. Norris does remain in concussion protocol. And Dan Campbell did say last week that the team would reevaluate Norris in 10 to 14 days, which would be sometime early next week. Quote by Dan Campbell said, that's TBD right now. Potential return this year. We're being very thorough and with this, and he's doing well. I mean, he's doing good right now, but I don't even want to go that far. I just know he's down for today, and we'll just keep going. So not bad news, not great news, for some of these guys, but it's good news to hear that Terrion Arnold is back on the field, and Terrion Arnold is looking really good. But before I get into that, what did you have this morning that you wanted to share before we get into any major topics?
All right. As you all know, Isaac Tesla is a huge Lions fan. He grew up going to Halloween every year as Barry Sanders. The kid went to his meeting with his top 30 meeting with the Lions with his own Lions jersey on. I mean, this kid was born to be a Lion. So I'm guessing that he is a fan of the show. And I think he must have been watching Rockhound Detroit Lions yesterday and he saw Will's SOL Edge Russian ice cream because he doesn't want to be outdone. The Detroit Lions rookie wide receiver Isaac Tesla has been honored near his hometown with a signature ice cream sundae called the Open on Sunday. And it was created by the Little Dipper Cafe in Jamestown, Michigan, near where Tesla grew up. And the Open on Sunday costs $7 and features coffee ice cream, caramel, brownie, whipped cream, and a cherry with sprinkles. What do you think about that, Will? You think Tesla was watching the show?
I know the place. So for 20 some odd years, I used to go out that way quite a bit. Burnips, actually. Burnips, Jamestown. Small town, right? Nothing out there. And I know that place. Been there. I'm not surprised that, he gets on. I thought he was more from the Hudsonville area. I thought that's where, he went to school, right? I thought it was in the Hudsonville area. What is he doing that far south? I didn't know he was, from that area, or maybe his parents are in there. I don't know. No idea. But I thought he was in the Hudsonville area, before going to college and that. It's interesting, but I know the place well. I look, who knows if he watched the show yesterday. I mean, yesterday is National Ice Cream Day, but yeah, you got to watch out, man, for that SOL fan ice cream, man. It might just ruin your season. It just might. It might not even be good at all. Cruising is that, are you serious? So I do know this. Megan works with somebody who is good friends with Isaac. So there's that close connection too. And yes, I've already asked to try to figure something out there, but I don't know yet. Do not know yet. We'll see where it goes. Unlikely, but we'll see. We'll see. All right, so we got a rookie update in. Isaac Tesla is set to see some increased reps with Jared Goff this week, especially after impressing the last couple of weeks with the second team offense. It's been a trend that has really been building since he's been with the Lions. He started off a little bit slow. He's been, incrementally added to this, to getting more reps, over time. But when you're playing as well as he is, and it looks just as natural, as he does, obviously you want to see more work with Jared Goff. So this week, especially throughout practice, and in Monday's practice yesterday, he was getting more reps with Jared Goff. He's 8 of 11 so far through the season, 105 yards, 2 TDs, averaging 13.1 yards per catch, and has a long of 24 yards. And then up front with Tate Rowledge, the Lions plan to give Tate Rowledge a little bit more time at center this week. Graham Glasgow has locked down the starting job there, which I'm not surprised. I expected it. But with Rowledge slotted at right guard, the staff wants options if Glasgow is ever sidelined. It's something that I think I just spoke about this the other day. Might have been last week, might have been over the weekend. That my 53 man kind of leaves off an extra center because of the Tate Rowledge opportunity. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not going to try to stash another center on the practice squad. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I don't think that they're going to keep another center on the roster. And what we're going to see this week with Tate getting more time is going to help solidify that. I think that's probably why, Brad and Dan are getting another look after a couple of weeks that he really hasn't taken any reps at center. Now let's see where he's at. Has he grown? How much has he learned? He looks great out there. Tate looks, talk about natural, right? He looks extremely good. Yesterday, I was putting together some highlights. Sorry, I got these allergies today. I was putting together some highlights yesterday of Jahmyr Gibbs, all 16 of his touchdowns. And I was working on some new content features through the season to put on Twitter. And so I'm still playing with it. It's not done yet. It's close. But I was going through it. I was watching, right? I'm watching Jahmyr Gibbs. And there's number 77, man. Frank Ragnow. I tell you what, he's going to be so missed. Watching some of the moves that he makes, how he jumps out in front of that line and just levels dudes, and then there goes Gibbs. He made wide open holes, man. You could drive a Mack truck through them. I had to appreciate Ragnow again yesterday for what he did for this team, how he plays the game, how important he was. I really hope that the Lions can figure out a way this season to not miss him too much. But man, he looked extra good yesterday on tape. I was hoping to see him back in uniform this week. But anyway, I just thought I'd share that. Jared Goff. So an update from Jared Goff yesterday about the defense and what he's seeing from the defense. Let me get this open. There's an article here by Tim Twentyman. But Goff said he's been really impressed with the defense so far. And most notably, it's been the communication in the back seven between the linebackers, the corners, the safeties, all being on the same page and playing as a cohesive unit. Now, that's during practice with the ones. What we've seen in games hasn't been that great, right? There's still some wide open stuff happening. There's still some missed assignments. They're getting their hands on the football. They're getting some PBUs, right? They're getting some passes defensed. But I think the large part of the communication that he's talking about is with the ones and how well they're playing. We just haven't seen it yet, right? Unless you've been at practice, we haven't seen it yet. So what he said here is there's been very few busted coverages in camp, and the play of the secondary has been steady, so consistent. He mentions communication, obviously highlights communication as, you know, one of the biggest features for this team right now. And then Jack Campbell really stepping into a positive role with his communication and getting this team ready, man, getting this defense on point. A couple of quotes here by Jared Goff. He says, their communication has been so good. I think Jack's done a great job at the mic, but when they got Alex Anzalone back, that veteran presence there, being able to communicate and get everyone together on the same page. Obviously, the D-line is doing what they're doing, and Hutch and Davenport is doing his thing. It's really hard. They're doing a good job. It's a good challenge. I think that's where I'm at in my career and where our offense is at in our evolution. God, I love that word, evolution. And we like that challenge. Make it hard, and they do. They've certainly given us fits, and we try to give them fits when we can. So the last quote there, you know, asked on how the defense is helping the offense grow, right? And giving Jared Goff something different to look at, keeping him on his P's and Q's, keeping him on his toes so that he can elevate his game. And that's why I said that's kind of where I'm at right now, is just keep on elevating, keep on getting better. Even, you know, what is this, 10 seasons now for Jared, I think? 10 seasons, pretty close to anyway, 9 to 10. So defense is looking good. Eric, any thoughts on the defense right now? Are you surprised? Should we be surprised that the defense is playing this well?
Well, I'm going to say this. I think Lions fans as a whole are in for a big surprise this year.
100%.
Because our defense, I'm telling you, I've seen them twice now. I saw them at a practice, and I saw them at a preseason game. Now, I didn't get to see the starters at the preseason game, but I got to see them in practice, and that was back before Anzalone was back, because the day that we went was the day that Anzalone came back. So now that he's back, he's in the groove. Man, I can only imagine how good that defense is right now. It's got to be clicking on all cylinders. All the starters are there except for Kirby. It's going to be amazing. And by week 1, we should be, knock on wood, totally healthy across the board for the defense for the first time in forever. That we're going to have basically everyone except for Aleem McNeil and Rodrigo. But even Rodrigo, he wasn't a starter unless he was forced to be a starter because of injury. Now, to me, the only player that's a starter that I'm really going to be semi-worried about is, oh man, I just had his name in my head. Our linebacker that just came back from knee injury, just got re-signed.
You talking about Derek Barnes?
Derek Barnes.
Yeah.
Yes. So Derek Barnes is the only one that I really have any pause for on that defense this year. I just don't know how he's going to fit in because they never had like this really defined role for him before. They were working him in here and working him in there and trying to make him this Swiss Army knife. So is that what he's going to be this year, or is he going to have more of a defined role?
No. He's 100% into a defined role. I mean, that's why they signed him to a contract. So last year, obviously, Derek Barnes was our starting Sam linebacker, and we got about 3 games out of him before he had that low chop block or cutback block that took his knee out.
Yeah,
he was starting to look pretty good, and I mean, I never really had a ton of confidence. To your point, yes, he was kind of all over the place, it seemed like, but he's always kind of been on that Sam role. He was on special teams. I mean, he was doing anything he could to get snaps. But now, I mean, going forward, he is our Sam linebacker. So there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it, man. I mean, he's our guy, and we're rolling with it. So if he's not going to play well this year, which we're not expecting, then we're going to be in some trouble. So I hope that the Lions made the right decision. I think what you're questioning here is, you know, it's kind of been his growth or his trajectory early on as a player, not getting a ton of snaps, kind of fitting in where the Lions can put him, playing on some special teams, getting some snaps on the defense, and then all of a sudden he gets signed to a mega deal. Well, for him anyway, a mega deal for him. After only 3 games where he started to look okay and was really going to kind of define or take over that role as a Sam linebacker. It's been an issue, I think, for this team where the Sam linebacker has been, I don't like to use the term revolving door, but Alex has been there. Malcolm has been there. Derek has been there. Who else am I missing? Trevor Nowaski's been there. I'm sure I'm missing a few other names over the last few years. We've had quite a few players play that role. Mm-hmm. And I guess we'll see where it goes. Look, I'm expecting great things out of Derek Barnes. I really am. He's looked good so far, and he knows the defense.
I just haven't heard any like super glowing, oh man, Barnes is tearing it up in joint practices this week. You know what I mean? And he's coming off an injury. So to me, I want to see him this Thursday. I'm going to watch Derek Barnes. That's probably the one player I'm going to pay attention to this week, because I think our defense is going to be top 5.
Oh, I've already put it out there, man. This is going to be the best defense we've ever seen in Lions history.
Yep.
As long as everybody stays healthy, this will be the best defense we've ever seen. You know where you have heard his name this year?
Where's that?
In a trade with Trey Henderson. That's where you've heard it.
Him, Anzalone,
right.
Jack Campbell.
Everybody. Hell, Jared Goff for Trey Hendrickson. We'll have Hendon Hooker starting at quarterback.
Yeah, why don't we just trade Hutch for him? I mean, come on.
That would be the dumbest thing ever, right?
Yeah.
All right, so if a little update on Derek Barnes is, maybe a week ago or so, he was saying, gosh, what is he? He was saying that he was talking about Shep and talking about Shep being real cerebral, being more aggressive than Aaron Glenn. More aggressive. And since I guess you brought up the linebackers, I'll say this. There was a few articles that popped out yesterday. Maybe they weren't articles. Maybe they were Twitter posts where, and I commented on one, I think it was by Justin Rogers, where they were saying that you can see where the linebackers are being utilized more often this year. Okay, so that happens on a Monday on, August 18th. I've been saying that for 3-4 weeks now. Ever since they got into camp and we went to camp, early, and even before that, watching some of the highlights, from OTAs and all that, watching what Shep has been doing, watching the game since the Hall of Fame game, the first thing I said is once Shep was installed as a DC, I said, this is going to be linebacker city, man. He's going to highlight these linebackers. And that's why, again, pointing back to the whole defensive end thing, it's less needed when you're highlighting the linebackers. Because if you're asking your DEs to set an edge, right, and you're asking your defensive tackle and your nose tackle to take up a block or two, well, what does that do? That leaves the rush lanes open for the linebackers. And that's what you're going to see this year. You're going to see probably Brian Branch come down and play in a small linebacker role so he can get in quick. You're going to see Grant Stewart in probably on some third downs to get after the quarterback using his speed. I mean, these are all things that I've seen right away. And the fact that now people are noticing it, one, we weren't wrong, but two, it's like, it's music to my ears, man. Because last year I thought that was the one thing that we were lacking with Aaron Glenn's defense, is we were not utilizing the linebackers enough. We want that natural rush up front, right? You want the natural rush of 4. That's what the Eagles did. You want to win your one-on-ones. So if you can win your one-on-ones and you can isolate the linebackers to do whatever they need to do, you're going to see more pressure on the quarterback, and I think you're going to see some more footballs on the ground as these guys get in the backfield and wreak havoc. So more TFLs. You'll probably see more sacks from the linebackers this year. I wouldn't even be surprised as a collective if the linebackers had more sacks than the defensive ends as a collective. Right? And that would be huge, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I want to take you back 365 days ago when we had this show, and we were talking and discussing the 53-man roster, and we were talking about the weakest link on the defense. You know, which position was the weakest link for the Lions, and you guys were saying linebacker, that we were lacking in the linebacker department. And
was that last year or the year before?
That was last year.
Okay.
And I wasn't so worried about the linebackers. I was more worried about I think corner. And it turns out that our linebacker play was pretty decent last year. You know, we had Derek Barnes get injured and then everybody else get injured. But for who we had in playing, I thought they played pretty decent, and the sky wasn't falling when it came to our linebacker depth last year until the very end.
Yeah, you saw once you lost Alex Anzalone, the drop off and that's because we already lost Derek Barnes too. So when you're down 2 out of the 3 starters, I mean, you know, things change in a hurry. And obviously the attrition didn't stop there. And I think that's another thing that, you know, I always say Lions fans when I say I think that, you know, we're forgetting some things. Mm-hmm. So you hear a lot of the sky is falling narrative about certain positions, but what I think that people forget, look around the team and who else was gone. Like each one of these players relies on the player north, south, east, and west of them. So if the player to your left is expected to do great things and he's gone, well, now you've got a weak side to your left. If the player to your right is expected to do great things and he's gone, well, now you're on an island with nobody to your left or right. Now you've got a guy that has less experience, lesser quality traits potentially, maybe not as sound in the defensive scheme. Oh, let's make it one step worse. Now you lost Carlton Davis. So now you're missing a corner that can come up and get into the box, right? Take care of, you know, stuff around the line of scrimmage and also defend pretty well downfield. And then we'll take it another step further. Now you lost to Lee McNeil. So now it's north, south, east, and west. You've got holes all around you. Of course you're going to have some issues at positions. And that's what what every fan forgets. Don't just focus on the immediate player. Look around, right? Look around and who was missing last year. Why did the defensive backs have some issues in the pass game? Well, they didn't have their first line of defense, the defensive line. It was banged up badly. Well, then the second line of defense, your linebackers, was equally or worse banged up. And then you get into the third line of defense, your nickelbacks, your corners, and that was banged up. And then you get into the fourth line of defense, and they were pretty good all year. Kirby and Brian were pretty healthy. So that's just, I mean, it's the bigger overview, right? Of don't just settle on one position's having a problem. Explain why it's having a problem because of all the issues around them and the players that we're missing. Like I said, they all lean on each other. Now, every one of those guys has to win their one-on-ones. That's what they're paid to do. It just gets incrementally harder when your team starts to lose high quality football players. I hope that made sense.
Yeah. And the reason I brought that up was because I think this year Brad went the complete opposite as far as backup depth for the linebacker position. We brought in Cunningham and we brought in Stewart. I think both these guys make this team. They've played exceptionally well in the preseason. And then we are not going to be with Rodrigo for at least a month and a half of the season. And
Mid-October. We got everyone kind of coming back in October.
Yeah. Okay. So even in October sometime, that's a lot of games to be missing. And then what are we going to do when he comes back? Who are we going to let go?
That's the age-old question right now, man. It's a hard roster to crack. It really is. We've got a week before we know what's up. So I've got one more, maybe two more 53-man predictions that are coming out. I failed you guys last night. I was supposed to put out my 53-man model, the full overview, the deeper look. I will do it today. There's just more information that I'm trying to put into it to make it as accurate as possible and explain some things that I think are necessary. They may not be necessary or important to you guys, but I feel like it's necessary. One more update on practice here. I don't think I went through this one yet, or on players. Terrion Arnold. So Terrion Arnold's been largely missing from camp this year. Now, he's been taking advantage of these early morning sessions, I guess. So he's getting in at 6:30 in the morning with Deshae Townsend. And they're getting into the film room. And after Monday's practice, Terrion Arnold had this to say. He said, the biggest growth has been the game slowing down. Take one play at a time, get in the film room. I feel like I've got the best coaching staff in the NFL right now. Just as far as me being able to text Coach Deshae Townsend at 6 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, I'll be there in 30 minutes. We are meeting at 6:30. And then he says, J.O., getting in the building, and he's already ahead of meeting with other guys. Just the room that we have. I don't take it for granted. I love this about TA, man. You know that he's such a good dude. Like the way that he practices, what he believes in, and how much this means to him. He's the consummate pro at making sure that he's, like he says, he is taking advantage of every opportunity. And then this last quote here, he says, those guys literally helped me take the biggest jump. Just being on me and making sure I'm a professional, grooming me to be a leader. Amik Robertson, going into his 6th year, DJ Reed, going into his 7th or 8th year. I don't take that for granted. Just being able to have tremendous guys like that in the room. This is going to be a power play for the Lions this year. Huge power play to have all of these guys in this room. The reason why I'm so confident in this defense is for two main factors. I've always said, the best path to the quarterback is through the A gap or the B gap, right? It's through the center of the offensive line. The minute you break that center chain link, right, the rest of that chain becomes weak, right? You can't put it back together. You start to space guys out, you create holes, you gain leverage, and now you can start to fire, your linebackers or your corners or whomever, right? Your safeties. And you're going to see more of that this year. I think you're going to see more DB blitz and you're going to see more linebacker blitz than we've ever seen. But my biggest strength for this team was getting that interior defensive line to be one of the best in the league. Very confident, very good and savvy at shutting down the run game. And then the back end. If you can solidify the back end with really good football players, which we have, honestly, some of the best, two of the best safeties. DJ Reed is a top 5 corner. Terrion Arnold started to play probably as a top 20 towards the later half of the season. He might hit the ground running this year and be a top 10, top 15, top 20 again. But having that many good guys, and then Amik Robertson, who clearly showed everybody why he is one of the best nickelbacks in the league. That back end of the defense is so strong that it now can free up the guys in the front and in the middle to be, well, a little more free, right? To do some other things that maybe we haven't seen before. And I think that that's exactly what Shep is going to take advantage of, is having such a good backfield that he can trust that those guys can clean it up and maybe get, I mean, you're going to take the advantages, but maybe take some more risk, but calculated risk, because the interior of that defensive line so far, I mean, DJ Reed and Tyleek Williams next together has been special. They've been getting a ton of push. And the fact that our offense is going up against this, that's just making those guys better too. And if they're able to get push and they're able to do some work against this offense, I have no worry in my mind that they can't do that to the rest of the league. It was funny when Dan Campbell in practice said the other day to Jahmyr Gibbs, this won't be that hard in a game. Did you hear him say that?
No, I did not.
Yeah, he straight up looked at Jahmyr and they were kind of laughing, and he said, this won't be that hard in the game. I took that as, look, you're going up against some of the best guys, you know, in the league right now. The rest of the league that you're going to go up against, they don't have what we have. You know, they don't have all 3 or 4 phases of your defense, have elite football players everywhere on this field. And that's why I just kind of cringe and laugh at the same time when we think that we need to spend all this money on bringing in Trey Hendrickson. Now, Z makes the most sense, right? But on bringing in guy, because we just don't need it. We really don't. It would totally kill the sustainability of this squad. But I'm excited to see where it goes. And Terrion Arnold, he's ready for the bigger moment this year and to play at a much higher level. He also mentions the room overall, right, and how the room is growing together through the competitive spirit that all of these guys share and really give each other. He said this too. He said we gel well together, which that's half the battle, right? Just being able to gel together. We just show up and go to work together. It's a group of guys that all fit in together. We love spending time outside the building together. We love breaking down film together, and we are hard on each other. The play from the secondary through camp so far has been impressive. They have a chance, I think, to be a strength of this football team. One of the better units in the league. Like, I don't know how good, but really good. Arnold obviously is hoping to play, a big part in that this season, in his second season. And he expects to be this. We are fast, we play hard, and we compete. This is our identity. I love it. I love everything about it. You had a big segment today on quarterbacks. And I think that's where we can go now is let's start diving in on quarterbacks. But before we do that, what time is it? 9:04. We missed the hard out. Before we do that, is there anything going on in the chat that we need to highlight this morning?
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Z, and then I see 2 comments about, how much would it cost to sign Zadarius Smith, and then I look down a little bit farther, and oh man, I just wish that the Lions would sign Zadarius Smith. And then I see from Attila the Hun, he says Judon just agreed to a deal with Miami worth up to $6 million. So is that the floor for Zadarius Smith?
Oh, 1,000%. It's the floor. I mean, his deal for this year was, I know it was spread out over 2 seasons, but it was like $16 million. Yeah. It was $10 million this year and $6 million next year, not even on the roster.
Yep.
So the floor is absolutely 6. I think the floor is 8. And it all depends on when he comes back. I kind of equated it to how many games is he going to play. So if he comes back after week 8, well, then he's probably $8 million. I'm thinking anywhere between $750 to $1 million a game is probably what he's looking to make this year. That's also why I think he doesn't need to sign right away, because the Lions are in a really good spot. We've only lost one guy so far for a little bit. It would not make sense to bring him in right away. I think it just made room for the Lions to hold on to Keith Cooper or Nate Lynn or somebody or Chris Smith a little bit longer. But we'll see how all that pans out later too. But I'm glad to see the Judon signed to somebody, so we don't have to see that anymore.
It gets old, man.
Yeah.
Because everybody asks us about all these players every day, and it just gets old hearing the same names over and over and over again, and nothing's going to happen.
You know what? Let's do this. I want to do the last, I don't know, half. How long do you think your segment is today?
Pretty good.
Half hour?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me run through this real quick. There are some players that are becoming available. And so there's some potential camp cuts that the Lions could target this season or next week, honestly. And so if we're looking at, defensive ends or, other players that maybe we need, which honestly, I think the Lions are good. There's Danico Autry. He could be a camp cut from the Texans, and we'll see him this week. Now, the Texans, who currently have $11.5 million in cap space, need to cut $26.6 million in salary by cutdown day. So I didn't take a look at the cap space, and I haven't even evaluated any of that yet. But if they're way over in cap space, then he's definitely an option for a cut. So if you're looking at a defensive end to come in, someone that is still playing at a high level, a little bit younger still, Danico Autry could be there. How about, well, I really won't worry about Romeo Doubs. I don't think the Lions are in need of any sort of a receiver at this point.
And the Packers, their wide receivers are decimated right now by injury.
Yeah, I don't think Romeo Doubs is going anywhere. I think that he's going to end up having to stay since, they are having some issues. How about Yurdo Gross Matos? So he gave us tons of fits when we played up against him, against the 49ers. The last, one or two times we faced him, he's kind of been a thorn. And earlier this offseason, the 49ers used the first-round pick on Mykel Williams, and then they acquired Bryce Huff in a post-draft trade. Nick Bosa obviously still headlines the defensive end group in San Francisco, and they also recently signed William Bradley King. So Yurdo Gross Matos making $7.4 million in base salary this year, and given his production in a rotational role, maybe the 49ers purge that salary if they have enough, and he could hit the market. I do like what Yurdo Gross Matos brings as his style of a defensive end. I do like it. So there's an option there. How about on the interior? So if the Lions were looking to add some more interior help, there's DeMarvin Leal, defensive lineman out of Pittsburgh. Now, the Steelers are hoping that they can make a deep playoff run this year with Aaron Rodgers. I don't think it's going to happen. They brought in Derek Harmon this year during the draft. And let's see, who else did they bring in? Or I guess really the real issue for him to stick on this squad is TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig. I really like Nick Herbig. And the rookie Jack Sawyer really leading that group right now. So Pittsburgh is pretty deep at the outside linebacker role. So, I mean, there is a possibility that Leal could be an option, and he's only $1.4 million this year. So there's an option there. Running backs we don't really need. I got a quarterback we'll come back to. And then Azeez Ojulari. So a guy that a lot of us have spoken about. I'm not sure how he fits just yet. But he is someone that has shown flashes during his 4 years in the NFL. Still has a lot of upside. He's a quality rotational rusher. In 2021 second round pick of the New York Giants, he recorded 22 sacks, 66 quarterback pressures in 46 games. And now that he's with the Eagles, he has a chance to fit in as a rotation that lost two contributors this offseason. Obviously, Josh Sweat, he departed in free agency before Philly traded Bryce Huff. And then the real problem is that the Eagles also added Josh Uche this offseason. And the former New England Patriot has really moved into a role behind Jalix Hunt. Jalix Hunt is, I think, one that got away. When I go back and look at my edge from 24, he was one of the highest rated edge guys in my metric system. as far as his ability on the field, not so much what he's done. But if the Eagles decide on saving $1.5 million in cap space, and it's better to save that than to keep Ojulari as a deep reserve, I mean, there's another option as a deep reserve on the edge. I think Ojulari offers some things for the Lions. Obviously, his skill set, his size is probably more in line with that bigger edge size, next to Davenport. So there's some options that could potentially come available after cuts. And like Dan said yesterday, Brad's eyes are wide open. And so I don't think this is so much about waiting for Z anymore. I think that the Lions are probably going to want to add somebody that's been in camp. And if there's an option to pick one of these guys up, after cuts next week, Tuesday, those are the few guys that could potentially be on the list. So Ojulari out of Philly, the interior defensive lineman DeMarvin Leal out of Pittsburgh, Yurdo Gross-Matos, the defensive end from San Francisco, and Danico Autry, Houston Texans. So those are some guys to I guess kind of park in the back of your hat for now. All right, let's do this. Let's take a quick 15 seconds for station identification. No, I'm just kidding. Eric, tell us all about YOOPERLITES, man.
All right. YOOPERLITES is your one-stop shop for everything rock hounding, from UV lights to rock scoops and everything in between. If you're heading up to Lake Superior, Lake Michigan, Lake Ontario, it doesn't matter where you're going. No matter where you live, get a good light, go out and look. You never know what you might find. All sorts of really cool UV stuff all over the world.
And then there's Pro Sports Zone. Obviously a big fan of Pro Sports Zone, man. They do a great job. Please go visit Pro Sports Zone in Livonia. Get all of your favorite teams, whether you're looking for jerseys, shirts, hoodies, some memorabilia, whatever you're looking for, man. Wall-to-wall sports merchandise. The newest designs are always in stock. John Yu keeps that place so packed he has to use the hallways, and he definitely gives you guys the lowest prices. You might get an extra discount by saying, Rockdown sent me here. You're only going to get the best service from John Yu. So please visit Pro Sports Zone at 37700 6 Mile Road in Livonia. 10 to 8, Monday through Saturday, 12 to 6 on Sundays. Pro Sports Zone, man. Get in the zone. Okay. I saw something in the chat real quick. Okay. What's the conversation we're having in here about Tim Patrick?
I think they're saying that he's going to get cut.
Is that what we're saying in here? I saw something in here about Tim Patrick was released due to roster crunch. He wasn't traded.
Yeah, when we acquired him, he was a free agent.
He was injured.
Yep. Yeah, but we didn't get him by trade.
No.
Yeah.
But he was injured for like 2 years.
Yep.
And then he just came back, I believe, he's with the Broncos, correct?
Yep. And
then it was through free agency that the Lions picked him up. I thought that, it was more of a roster crunch, like he had said in there. Giovanni said. I believe also is they didn't have the faith in his injury history, and clearly the Lions did. They took the risk, and it paid off. It took him several games to finally get his feet underneath him, but Tim Patrick made some incredible plays last year that were needed. I don't think he's going anywhere this year. I know that a lot of us see Isaac Teslau rising on this depth chart. And I do believe he's the eventual replacement for somebody like a Tim Patrick. But I don't think Tim Patrick's going anywhere. I think the Lions are leaning more towards 6 wide receivers this year than 5. I really do. Otherwise, you're going to have to put a guy on the practice squad. And I'll tell you what that's all about later on tonight in my new update. So tonight, we'll be doing Off the Cuff podcast. And I will outline the entire 53 man and what I'm thinking. That's what tonight's going to be all about. And I've got a little bit of information to share with it. And we're going to kind of walk through what the Lions have to do and why with the practice squad, and why the roster gymnastics are just incredible, right? To navigate some tough waters. Okay. So Eric,
Yes.
Quarterback number 2 position for Detroit is,
all right.
Man, it's you want to talk about some rough waters right now.
Yes.
Hendon Hooker's boat is sinking.
Yes.
It's taking on water, and that bilge pump is not working. He's got one more game to prove that he belongs on this team still. And I'm not so sure that it's enough time. So walk us through what's happening here. Some quarterbacks that you think potentially have an opportunity to make this squad later, as quickly as next week. So walk us through it, man.
Yeah. Well, the question isn't if an upgrade is needed to the backup position behind Jared Goff this season. It's who will Brad Holmes poach next week when cuts begin. So the final roster cut downs are approaching next Tuesday all around the NFL. Many teams with deep quarterback rooms, some have 4, some have 5, will be forced to release a quality player. So QBs. I put together a little list of a few quarterbacks, not all of them, just a few, who could potentially be available for the right price to the Detroit Lions through either a trade or maybe Brad decides to be patient and can pick them up for free off the free agency list. And he is going to be looking for an alternative to Hendon Hooker and or Kyle Allen. So what if he's not satisfied with Kyle Allen as well? Now, Kyle Allen's put together a couple of good days, a couple of good preseason games. But before that, we weren't hearing very much in the way of positives for Mr. Kyle Allen. So like when you and I went to practice, he was not putting up very good numbers. He was throwing lots of balls way over people's heads, and I think had 1 touchdown the whole time we were there. So I put together a little list, and I'm going to start it off with a prime trade target. Okay. These are guys that probably won't get cut. They're going to need to be traded for. And the first one up is Jimmy Garoppolo. And with Matt Stafford entrenched as the starter, Garoppolo is one of the league's most overqualified backups. He has extensive starting experience. He's won a lot of games, and he's known for his quick release and accuracy. He would represent a significant and immediate upgrade to the backup position in Detroit, providing a steady veteran presence who could legitimately win games if Jared Goff were to miss time. Now, I went on here and I looked at the Los Angeles Rams depth chart. So you have Matt Stafford, Jimmy Garoppolo, Stetson Bennett, and Dresser Wynn. So they have 4 quarterbacks, and they're probably only going to carry 2. So 2 of these guys are out. I'm thinking they're going to stick with Stetson Bennett again. He was the backup last year, and I think they're going to stick with him again. So Jimmy Garoppolo may be available via trade, depending on how Matt Stafford's back goes the next couple of days.
So with that, if you take a look at what kind of happened over the weekend, all right, so who's on their depth chart again?
It is, I got to get back to that screen. It's Jimmy Garoppolo, Stetson Bennett, and Dresser Wynn.
Yeah, so Dresser Wynn is out.
Yep.
Jimmy's going to stay, and I believe Stetson's going to stay, because right now the whole issue with Stafford is that back issue does not seem to be, it's a disc. It's not, and like I have disc issues, right? They're in any other day, it could be, just debilitating. So Stetson got a ton of snaps this weekend. I don't know how well he played. I just know he got a ton of snaps this weekend. I don't think that they're going to be able to walk away from all of them. I think that they're going to have to keep all 3. And I think that the Win guy is probably gone, but he's not somebody I would expect to see the Lions pick up. That's my take on it.
Yep. And up next, I have Mr. Kenny Pickett. Now, this would have to be a trade because I think he's pretty entrenched as the number 2. But with the Browns naming Joe Flacco the starter, and Kenny Pickett is dealing with a hamstring issue, they're going to probably have to carry 3 or 4, but they have 5 or 6 on their depth chart right now because they still have Mr. Massage, and they have Shedeur Sanders, and they have their draft pick, their 3rd round draft pick. And
yeah, so with this, hold on, you said Kenny Pickett he's slated as the number 2 right now?
I think he's slated as the number 2 right now.
We know Flacco's named the starter.
Yep.
Which is interesting to me. It's the Browns, man. Like, they've got to be the dumbest run football team that I've ever seen. Flacco's a good football player. He absolutely is. He used to be. What is he, 62 years old now?
Yeah, 41.
He's collecting his retirement. I mean, the Browns obviously decided to start Joe Flacco as of week 1. They brought in Sanders and Gabriel during the draft. Then you have Kenny Pickett with a hamstring injury. You still have Mr. Massage. I like that on this roster. Look, I think that Mr. Massage is probably going to be on IR, right? So they're going to stash him. You know, I don't think he's really ever going to play again, but he's already paid. It doesn't matter if you cut him or not. The Browns will probably put him on a list and stash him, or they'll just end his season effectively. And then they're going to keep Flacco. They're going to keep Sanders, and they're going to keep Gabriel. I don't think that Pickett, of course, this is the Browns. They would probably keep Pickett over Gabriel or Sanders, but to your point, I don't think that there's a way they can keep 4.
Yeah, I don't see how it's going to work. I think in a lot of the writers right now are talking about how they can't keep both the rookies. They're going to have to let one of either their 3rd round or their 5th round pick go.
See, I don't think that.
Yeah.
I think that would just be, I mean, you might as well take a knife to your Achilles, right? I mean, that's what I think about when you're thinking about moving on from a 3rd and a 5th round pick from this year, and the way that Shedeur Sanders has been playing. I mean, you guys know how I feel about Shedeur Sanders. I think if and when that guy really gets a chance to start and do some damage in this league, he's going to do some damage. He just needs a good opportunity. I don't think that there's any way they walk away from those 2 rookies. But, okay, so if they do, which one do you think that they're going to walk away from, and how does that help or hurt the Lions?
It could possibly...
Because it's not going to be Gabriel. I mean, let's just be real.
Yes, it's most likely going to be Sanders. Now, is Sanders someone who would fit with Detroit as a backup? Okay,
so I'm going to break it down from a stylistic perspective, right? I think his style of a quarterback fits. Mm-hmm. The style of which he plays is so close to Jared Goff, it's not even funny. He's cerebral. He's very quick through his progressions. He plays he excels in a timing offense. He's got feet if he needs them. He does not like to run first, but he will run if he needs to, which I love. And his arm is laser sharp. I don't know how people doubted his arm. His arm is laser sharp. This kid has been coached his whole life by some of the best of the best of the best. I think Tom Brady even coached him for a little bit. Shedeur Sanders has an oblique injury, I think, right now, and I think that's why you're seeing Kenny Pickett rise in the depth chart.
Yeah. Well, Kenny Pickett's also got a hamstring. And the thing about these guys is I know we made fun of Shedeur Sanders during the draft. You know, everybody did. You know, we thought it was funny that he didn't go until the 5th round, yada, yada, yada. But in all seriousness, if you take all of the drama away and just go by his play on the field, he's a pretty decent quarterback. If he gets cut, I hope Brad Holmes is running to put in a waiver claim for the kid. I would accept him on the Lions. I think we could accept that on the Lions. I think it would work.
I mean, the video that I did not get good reviews. People thought I was crazy, and you kept hearing, all I kept hearing in the comments was this. oh, he's entitled, or, you know, the Lions didn't want his dad. And it's like, what? Like, this is about Shedeur Sanders. This is not about Deion Sanders. Deion has his own things to deal with, right? He's now post-cancer, and he's running a football team. I don't think Deion's going to meddle. And you know damn well Dan Campbell's not going to put up with that. When you think of potentials for outside influence that could, you know, get in the way of your team, Dan and Brand they would make the right choice. I think Shedeur Sanders' upside in his ability to play the sport and the position is far greater than any other nonsense that's been reported. I think that he's been slammed for no reason. I think that, you know, all of these, you know, boomers like Boomer Esiason just, you know, they put the screws to Shedeur Sanders because of what Deion Sanders did to them, you know, when they played, and his mouth, you know, and everything else. That's where I think a lot of this hate came from, you know, and this disdain for Shedeur Sanders. I think it came from what Deion Sanders did as a football player to some of these other guys that are now writing, you know, leading media circles, right, on TV. I think that's where it came from. There's a reason why a lot of people put Shedeur Sanders in the first round, and that's because of his skill level. Everything else can be worked on. Jameson Williams is a good example, right? He comes in, he's immature, as reported, as seen, and now look at him in year 3, like total 180, right? And he's only getting better as a football player. So if the Lions can do it with anyone, or if anyone can do it, the Lions can do it. And they don't have any problems on their team right now. There's not one issue on the Lions team with anybody that is even questionable from a character standpoint. So you can bring the one in if you think or believe that Shedeur Sanders is a character problem. And I just got to be real, man. I think his ability is undeniable. You put him in this system, I think he's going to flourish. It's just whether or not the Browns are going to let him go, and I don't think that's going to happen. Now, both Dylan Gabriel's got a hamstring issue. Shedeur Sanders has an abdominal issue. Dylan Gabriel made some comments that apparently didn't land well over the last week or so, and I think that's why we see Kenny Pickett as number 2, and that's why Joe Flacco's the starter right now. I think that's the real issue with the Browns. I do not think that the Browns are going to walk away from any of those guys, and you could now stash them on the list because they have an injury, so you can stash them. They don't have to worry about losing them, you know. Mm-hmm. So anyway, it is what it is. What's next?
All right, so up next, I got a couple from our division. So Sam Howell, the Vikings have a fascinating situation going on. They traded for Sam Howell right around draft time. And if rookie Max Brosmer continues to outplay Howell and wins the backup job outright behind J.J. McCarthy, the team might look to trade Howell rather than keep him as a third stringer, especially since they had just acquired him. He has a big arm and starting experience, though he can be prone to turnovers. What do you think about him?
Sam Howell?
Yeah.
He's not getting cut. I mean, you got J.J. McCarthy as your 1, Sam Howell as your 2, and then Max Brosmer and Brett Ripien as 3 and 4. So if the Vikings are going to keep 2, it's Sam and JJ. Max and Brett are the only 2 that would get released, and neither one of those excite me at all.
But Max Brosmer has been outplaying Sam Howell all preseason.
It's preseason, so let's think about that in the context of preseason. Sam Howell is going up against 1s and 2s, and Max Brosmer is going up against some 2s, mostly 3s, and some 4s. So I would say the competition is commensurate when you're in the game. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Looks like Brandy said we're up to 75 likes. Looks like we just hit it.
Oh, all right on.
So we'll get ads turned off here momentarily. Let me back up to something real quick because someone had a good question or a statement in the chat. And it was Jack2125. He said, Lions only keeping 2 quarterbacks. I agree. So do y'all think the Lions would cut the other 2 for Sanders? The answer is no.
No.
Here's what I think would happen. And let's be honest. Let's frame this. I'm not trying to hijack your story here, but let's frame this for a minute. Have either the backup quarterbacks played well this year?
No.
No. Has one played better than the other?
Yes.
Do you trust either one of them to win a football game?
No.
I don't either. So when I look at it from that context, I think that we are pigeonholed right now, that we're taking the least of the worst that we have at the backup quarterback position. We are accepting the least of the worst 2 options. I don't care about the draft pick, right? That would be one of the first failures for Brad Holmes. And then when Broderick Martin is exited or put on, the practice squad, that's still not a failure. But if you're talking 2 out of, 30 draft picks in 5 seasons, or 2 out of 34, whatever it's been, you're still hitting pretty high level, which Brad Holmes has done an excellent job. You can't go around this roster and say that he has not filled this roster at so many positions with all Pro Bowl players, and Pro Bowl from the context of you've earned that, not so much the game. Like, I care less about the Pro Bowl game and the antics with it. The Pro Bowl in and of itself, that, how do I frame that? That award, I guess, that you're given, that you made the Pro Bowl team, means you're a pretty damn good football player. And we have, 7 All-Pros and, 8, 9, 10 Pro Bowlers that Brad has drafted. So where I'm going with this is, if it's the lesser of the 2 evils that you keep right now at cuts, then, and Hendon Hooker comes up with an injury next week, and he's stashed on a list for a minute. If a really good football player as a quarterback comes available, I think Brad's eyes are wide open. I don't think that either one of them would come to the mic today and say, they won't say this because they just wouldn't. But if they were asked in a back room, right, in a dark corner, in some corner bar at 2:00 in the morning, do you trust Hendon Hooker or Kyle Allen to go win a football game if Jared Goff had to miss a game? I think both of them would look at you straight in the face and say, I don't. Honestly. Has Kyle Allen shown to be better at times? Yes. But what I've seen in both games, balls in the dirt, 5 yards short to start the game. Really rusty, not looking polished at all. That scares me more than Hendon Hooker kind of getting thrown to the wolves and being very inconsistent. But he's also made a couple of plays with his legs. He's just not getting through his progressions right now. He doesn't have the confidence yet. But if you give him another year, he might develop it. And Brad's probably going to lean towards, look, if we don't have Jared Goff, are we really going to go the distance anyway? The answer is no. And that's what you have to look at. If we have to put anybody in but Jared Goff, we're not going to win football games. Most teams are in that position. I would say all teams are honestly in that position, that if you go without your starter, that you're most likely not going to win. There's very few teams in this league that can say they're confident in the backup situation. All right, let me get ads kicked off. I just wanted to frame it that way.
Yeah.
While you're going through this, because I think that it's a great question, and I think the answer is right now we're kind of pigeonholed with taking the lesser of the 2 evils right now.
All right, since you brought it up again, I have a fantasy trade for you. Okay, since we have all these fantasy trades with Jack Campbell and Alex Anzalone and Hutch. Okay, here's one for you: Broderick Martin for Shedeur Sanders.
Oh, Eric.
One project for another. What do you think? A 3rd round pick for a 5th round pick.
And you're going to pay Broderick's salary for the next 10 years too?
Nope,
right?
Nope. Player for player.
Yeah, stuff like that wouldn't happen, but is there a player that you have on this team that maybe you could trade? Now that's an interesting conversation. So if you're looking at Okay, so let me frame it this way then. Teams are not stupid. They know right now if you attempted a trade, most likely that person is not going to make your roster anyway. So why would a team make a trade right now when they have to wait a week? That's it. They wait 1 week and then they get an idea of who's going to be available. That's why not a lot of trades happen between now and cut day. That's why not a lot of trades happen, period, after free agency. Everybody is waiting until cut day. Trades are so unlikely to happen between free agency week 2 and week 1 of the season. It's like next to nothing when you look at the grand scheme of all of the trades that have happened in the NFL. I'll find you a number. I will dig in and find the number on how many trades have actually happened, but I will tell you it's going to be next to nothing. So it won't happen, but hypothetically, I wouldn't think that would be a trade. Do the Browns need a defensive lineman? Do they need another project? I don't know. I don't think so. They need an edge rusher is what they need, you know, opposite of Myles Garrett.
JAC in the chat says Meeks is tradable.
Is he?
And that's an undrafted free agent.
Again, I don't want to rain on someone's parade about their hype about a player.
Mm-hmm.
Jackson Meeks has had a couple of good games against 3s.
Mm-hmm.
Go put him up against the 1s and let's see what happens. And I'm not saying that he's a bad football player, and I'm not saying that he can't make plays. I'm loving what Jackson Meeks is doing right now. Matter of fact, I played the highlight video of me watching the Reese's game, or it was the Shrine game, where I pointed out that Jackson Meeks is someone that was on my radar. So I like everything about him, but we got to be real here for a moment that these guys are not going up against the elite in the NFL. And that's why when you look at guys on the bottom of a roster, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th receiver, they don't have any stats typically. And that's because either they don't get enough playing time, or when they are in, they don't do anything with it. They are not targeted as often because the quarterback trusts the other guys that are ahead of them. So a guy like Jackson Meeks, if he goes through the season, he puts up 500 yards this year and maybe 4 touchdowns, then he's tradable. That's an insanely good season for a UDFA, and it's also unlikely to happen unless injuries happen. But why would we trade Jackson Meeks? I think he's going to make this roster, you know?
Yeah.
But good question, right? I mean, it's a great question. All right, so who else is on your quarterback list?
All right. So I have, let's see, 2 more. So the next one up is from the Chicago Bears. So Case Keenum. If Tyler Bagent definitely wins the backup quarterback job, which I think he has, behind Caleb Williams, the Bears could release the 37-year-old Keenum. He is a well-respected veteran who knows our system a little bit. And he would provide kind of a seamless transition and a reliable, albeit limited presence. So what would you think about someone like Case Keenum?
Where is he at on the
He's on Minnesota. Let's see, the Chicago Bears. I gotta get theirs back up.
Yeah,
here.
I don't.
So it's Caleb Williams, Tyson Bagent, Case Keenum, and Austin Reed. So he would be a cut. He would not be one I would want to trade for. And just because of his experience, he would be an experienced backup. He's been all over the place. I mean, he's been the backup.
Didn't he dice us up?
Yeah, he's played for Minnesota. He's played for the Browns. He's been all over the place.
I thought he diced us up when he was with the Packers. Wasn't he with the Packers?
Nope, not.
Oh. What's that noise?
Something played on my computer. I don't know why it's not muted. It's supposed to be.
You got to go up and mute you go up to the tab, you right click it, and then you hit mute page.
I just got out of it.
Okay. So taking a look at Mr. Case Keenum here, he's 8 of 10, 80% completion rate, 80 yards, 2 touchdowns, 139.6 rating this year. Overall, he is, 15,000 yards, 6.8 average, which is really low. 79 TDs to 51 interceptions, 84.6 overall rating. If you look at the length of his career and what he's been able to do, he has a ton of experience. He is a guy that could come in and actually win some football games for you. Yeah. He absolutely is. He's not the best answer at quarterback 2, but again, if you look around the league, how many teams really have a great situation? Not many do. For Case, I guess to make the case for Case would be, would the Lions want to risk building an eventual replacement behind Goff, or are they just going to do the carousel thing every year and just keep bringing guys in? I think the Lions are drafting a quarterback next year, without a doubt. I don't know if it's going to be early yet. I don't know if it's going to be a mid-round yet or a late-round guy, but I bet you they're drafting a quarterback next year.
Okay, well, you might want to rethink that real quick because I have one more left on my list.
Nate Sudfeld?
No, this is a guy that I stole from you.
Uh-oh. You stole it from me this morning on my list?
I stole this from when you were talking a few weeks ago. Okay.
Uh-oh.
We played this quarterback in the Hall of Fame game.
Yeah.
Mr. Trey Lance, former, number 4 overall pick?
Something like that.
That was traded up to get. You know, the 49ers traded way up to get this guy. They gave up 3 number 1 picks to get him. Everything. So this guy, there was something there. They saw something, and he's just been tossed around. He went to the Cowboys, and now he's with the Chargers. And after being traded to the Chargers, Lance is in a clear developmental role behind franchise quarterback Justin Herbert, and he's looking pretty good doing it. He's competing for a roster spot, likely as the 3rd quarterback, because if you look at the depth chart for the Chargers, they have Justin Herbert, Tyler Heineke, Trey Lance, and then DJ Uli.
DJU.
Yeah. So I think Trey Lance is the odd man out here.
Well, he is. Taylor Heineke's played pretty well.
Yep. And they're not going to carry 3 quarterbacks.
Well, so that's the question: is how do you keep 3? And so I'm not as I guess I don't know the full story of their roster right now. So I know I got a really great idea about the Lions and what I think their roster is going to look like. Like last year, I think I got 46 of them right or 47 of them right. I don't know what their roster is going to look like. So do they have room to keep a 3rd quarterback? And then after they get after the 24-hour mark, could they transition him to a practice squad? If you throw him on a practice squad, Trey Lance has been in the league, 5 years?
I think, yeah, because he came in the same year as Dan Campbell.
2021.
Yep, because Dan Campbell's very first game was against the 49ers.
Here's what's going to happen. I'm telling you right now, this is what's going to happen. Double check me next week.
Okay.
Trey Lance is going to be on the practice squad, and he's a vet. So he doesn't have to sign anywhere. He can go on the practice squad. I know that there's a little bit more of some nuanced situations here with understanding how the vet squad, practice squad, waivers. I think to keep it simple, right? Keep it simple, stupid theory. If you have more than 3 years of accrued seasons and you're a vet, something tells me you don't necessarily have to go through waivers, but let me research that. I love Trey Lance. I like the idea. I think he played well in the Chargers game against the Lions, against a really bad defense that didn't scheme up anything. My question is, how has he performed this preseason? How has he looked in the other games? I have not watched another game with him.
Yep.
Preseason this year, he's 27 of 49. He's got a 55.1 completion percentage, which is terrible. He's thrown for 296 yards, 2 TDs, 86.8 rating. You got something that keeps playing.
Yeah, it did it. it's because I clicked on the page.
Yeah, so go up to the tab, right click it, and then you'll see where it says mute site.
Ah, there we go.
Yeah, do that for every tab that you have open.
Yeah.
Then it'll never play those stupid ads or whatever. Or it'll play it, but you won't hear it.
Yeah. There.
So, I mean, he looked great in the Hall of Fame game, but since then, just based on the numbers, he maybe hasn't looked great. But I love his ability. I love his legs. I think he's got a cannon for an arm. And he's probably somebody that you can mold. I think he's had some decent coaching with Harbaugh. He's probably learned how to cheat over the last couple of months. I'm just kidding. Just I had to do it. I had to do it. But I think he's still going to stick with that roster. I think he's probably going to, manage a way to stick with it.
But what if the Detroit Lions come a calling with a 5th round?
Broderick Martin?
Oh, yeah, Broderick Martin. There you go. We're going to trade him away now.
Oh, my goodness.
Buy his jersey and say he's going to make the team.
You know who would be really good trade bait right now?
Who?
Craig Reynolds.
Yes.
And I love Craig, but he would be really good trade bait right now because he's got time in the league. You know what he can do when he's on the football field, but I don't think the Lions are going to walk away from Craig Reynolds, man. He's been very valuable to this team.
He is the absolute ultimate teammate.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't care if you are the 7th string running back. He is a cheerleader for every single running back that's out there on every single play. It is crazy how that guy is such a mentor to all of these other running backs. And he does things the right way. You never see Craig Reynolds getting yelled at by a coach.
I think he's played pretty well since he's been around. So I'm trying to grab the information here. So a vested veteran, if you have 4 or more seasons, then there's no waivers. And that is before November 5th. So what happens here is you become an unrestricted free agent after cuts, and then you can sign with any team immediately. A non-vested veteran, fewer than 4 seasons, you have to go through waivers no matter what. Teams can claim the player based on the waiver order. If you are a vested veteran after November 5th, then you must go through waivers. So after the trade deadline, even vets must pass through waivers if released. That's how that works. So to recap that, before November 5th, which August 26th is, if you have 4 or more seasons in the NFL and you are cut by a team, you can go sign with anybody immediately. So those are the players that I would be looking at who has 4 or more seasons of accrued NFL service, right? And I think those would be the players that they could sign immediately without having to, do the balancing act of waivers. Because once you take a player on waivers, I think it kicks you to the bottom then, right? So you kind of start all over again. And I doubt the Lions would want to do that early. I think that they love to kind of hold that little extra poker chip, later on in the season when they might need it. Did you have anybody else?
So one more. I have a question more than a quarterback. Did Brad Holmes miss out by letting Bryce Perkins be signed by the Carolina Panthers this week? While the Lions invested a 3rd-round pick in Hendon Hooker with the hope of developing him, the primary goal for a Super Bowl contender is to have the best possible 53-man roster. Bryce Perkins, with his recent success and unique skill set, presents a compelling argument as a more valuable and dynamic option for the QB3 role, or even to push for the QB2 spot. Now, he is elite when it comes to mobility. He was just voted the MVP of the UFL. And now I know that is not NFL, but he just got done playing. And there's been over 50 players signed now from the UFL into the NFL, which is a record for the UFL.
That's incredible.
Yes.
That's absolutely incredible.
But that tells you the NFL was watching and that these players are game ready. They've been getting hit. They've been through a training camp. They're ready to go. They haven't been sitting on the couch for 6 months. So these guys are ready to go. And I think Perkins offers a completely different flavor than Hendon Hooker. His skill set would allow the Lions to create specific packages for him and play similar to like Taysom Hill and his role in New Orleans, using him in short yardage or red zone situations to give opposing defenses a completely different look. And then his versatility, he'd add value beyond just being an emergency quarterback, something that our other two do not do. So you could use him in almost like a wildcat role, because if you look at Bryce Perkins, what he did this year for the Michigan Panthers, he had 6 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. He was 93 of 151, 61.1% for 945 yards. But then rushing, he had 51 attempts for 388 yards. That's 7.6 yards per carry and a league-leading 9 rushing touchdowns. So when they got close to that end zone, they would do an RPO run pass option, and he would decide to tuck it or pass it. And the guy was an electric human highlight machine. And how the Lions didn't take a look at him is kind of mind-boggling to me. So my question is, did Brad Holmes miss an opportunity to get someone who might have been a competent backup? Because you got to remember, this guy used to be the backup for Matt Stafford when Matt Stafford won a Super Bowl. So so
this dude won a Super Bowl being a backup?
Yes. So did Brad miss an opportunity?
Maybe. I mean, I love his prototypical size. What is he, like 6'3", 210, 215, something like that? Yeah. He has the prototypical size. I mean, he clearly has some good ability. If there was any quarterback, he might have been the best option right now. The last time he was in the league, though, in 2022, he had a 28.7 QBR.
Ooh. But
he only played like a handful of snaps.
Yes. And has he went on to get more snaps and more seasoning in the UFL?
1,000%. He has 1,000%. But you mentioned seasoning and you mentioned flavor, and here's the best flavor of the day.
Hey,
it's SOL fan ice cream. If you need a Trey Hendrickson or Zadarius Smith on your roster right now, rush to the stores today and get your SOL fan ice cream. You got to watch out for that scissor up, though.
Yeah, but I like the edge Russian flavor better, though. That's my favorite.
I only did that because there was a certain individual that came across into our border, and I wasn't real happy about that. All right, so I'm going to throw a name out there.
Sure.
I'm going to throw a name. I'm going to throw my hat in the ring. You guys are going to think I'm crazy. And that's okay. I've been called worse. But Tommy DeVito.
Oh, wow.
Tommy DeVito right now is the 4th quarterback behind Jameis Winston for the New York Giants. How about Jameis Winston?
And Russell Wilson.
So you got Russell Wilson and Jackson Dart. That's your 1 and 2. That's not going to change.
Yep.
That is not going to change. So I think, Tommy DeVito, when he was in, he was playing pretty well. Gosh. What year was it? What year was it that he had the most? Was it last year?
2 years ago.
So in the preseason this year, he's 13 of 18, 72.2% completion rate, 125 yards, 1 for 1 TD, 1 interception, 86.6 rating. In his career, he's 145 of 222, 65.3 percentage rate completion, 1358 for yards, 6.1 average, a little lower, 8 TDs to 3 interceptions. I do like that. That's a little bit better. So if you were to walk that out, you know, he would throw like 24 TDs to 9 interceptions on an average, which is a little bit higher than you would want for interceptions, but it's not a terrible rate. And I think when you have some really good weapons like the Lions do, it will elevate your game. Tommy DeVito, he's definitely going to get cut. He's 6'2", 210, so he's almost there. It's his 3rd season in the NFL. I mean, he's probably one of the better ones out there with experience right now.
Valenti on 97.1 would have a heart attack.
Well, I hope he doesn't have a heart attack, but yeah, it would be interesting. It would be interesting to say the least, but it's an option because he's on the bottom of a roster right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I do have to get flying.
All right.
So,
what's your final take, man? What are we doing?
I love it. Cut down day is next Tuesday. I know the guy that I'm wearing his jersey right now, Tyleik Williams. He's not going anywhere. I don't know what's going to happen with this whole backup QB situation. My gut is telling me that it's going to be Kyle Allen as the backup and Hendon Hooker is going to be sitting on the sidelines. I don't think we're going to cut him. I think we're going to carry 3 quarterbacks into the season, and it's going to take something monumental for Brad Holmes to admit that a 3rd round pick is a wash.
Ooh. You just left a cliffhanger, so I'm going to try to walk into that one while you leave.
All right. I'll be listening.
See you. Have a good day. All right. So Eric just kind of left us with a little bit of a cliffhanger there, thinking that it's going to take some monumental something. I didn't hear what he said there. Monumental stuff for Brad Holmes to admit to missing on a 3rd round draft pick. Do any of you guys think that Brad Holmes has, this giant ego? Like, I love the dude. I think he's great at what he does. But do you think that part of the reason why some players stick around a little bit longer than others is because of the ego, or because of the fact that he drafted them and he doesn't want to be wrong and he wants to give it, that old college try, if not once, maybe thrice? I don't know. I don't know how much of that really plays into it. I think that he knows that if he's done the work right, he seems to select the right players every time. And I think it goes both ways. It's not just Brad's intelligence. It's all of the scouts that are feeding him the information, right? And he has to make a good decision with Dan Campbell, but it's also heavily reliant upon the coaching staff, right? These guys have to train these players. They have to coach them up. So that's my biggest worry for Hendon Hooker is he's been in a really good system, playing behind one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Mark Brunell has been, just a wonderful piece to this team, helping Jared Goff in every facet of his game. And why hasn't he taken the next step, right? Brad has admitted that Hendon Hooker has taken a while at every spot that he's been at, whether it was Tennessee. I forget who he was with before that, but he did admit that it usually took Hendon a little bit extra long to kind of get going, to kind of get things figured out. And Tennessee was a really funky offense. I knew up front that was going to be the hardest transition for him, was transitioning between that funky offense and then an NFL scheme. However, is Brad willing to cut bait now because this roster is at a point of boiling over? It is. This roster can only go as far as they will let it go with keeping some of these, I hate to use the word lower quality, but let's just say that, there's some guys on this roster that are better than others, and you got to keep them. What do they always say? We're going to keep the best 69 football players, right? You might end up heavy in a position because of that. And I think that that's also part of the equation. How do you keep the best 69 and at the same time give yourself enough depth at enough positions in case the oh shit happens, right? Last year was more than just an oh shit. It was a lot worse. I won't even use the language for that to describe what happened last year. I think it all comes back to one point, though, and that is the culture of this team that we've continually talked about. And there's an individual that spoke about this, and he just joined this team this year. And I've loved everything about him so far. He's one of the hardest working guys in the room. And that's Mr. Roy Lopez. We haven't heard a ton of him yet, but I'm making it a point this year to try to highlight everybody on this team. That is one of my goals this year, to make sure that we get everybody talked about this year. And I'm going to line this up. I'm going to bring in his video. We'll make this the last segment of the day. So probably another 12 or 15 minutes or so, then we'll be done. But let's hear from Mr. Roy Lopez on his experience so far with the Detroit Lions and why I think Brad has done an absolute amazing job and how we shouldn't be as concerned as some people are. All right, here's Roy Lopez. Oh, that was ice cream. Oh, that's ice cream too. What happened? There we go. There he is. Roy Lopez.
How's camp been so far?
It's been good. It's been fun. Learning a lot, having a lot of fun, laughing a lot. It's a good group of guys, man. It's as a competitor, as a person that loves football, as a person that loves to just be around people and have fun. It's a blessing to be here. For sure.
Been what you expected when you signed?
For sure. Maybe a little more, but definitely hard work, but also loving it, appreciating it, learning so much. There's so many guys here that know so much more about football rather than just your position, and such high expectations for this group, for personally, and it's awesome.
A couple of weeks ago when you were out with the foot injury, you were walking off the field, and I saw you take a look back, and you were just like in a maze whenever everything was seeing this. How does it feel to be in the room, just mixing up with the guys on the set, learning? What's been the one thing that you've been able to kind of take away so far from all of this experience?
That they love ball, man. I came into an organization, came into a room that loves ball, that understands everything about it. And to be in a room that shares the same, shares the same interest, shares the same love for getting better, for the game of football as a whole, it's a blessing, man. And to be able to see guys like Hutch, guys like Reeder, Davenport, Anzalone, right, Jack, all these guys flying around every day. There's no shortcuts, man. It's an old saying, right? An old cliche saying. There's no shortcuts, but here is a true definition of that.
What ways have you seen your game grow so far, just being around these guys?
Right. I think just playing fast, letting it loose, letting it cut loose, man, and because they instill confidence in you. You go out there, you put it on tape, put the trust in yourself and one another, and from the first day of OTAs to now, it's been so much trust being built, doing your job, making the play when you're supposed to. And then, when you call your shot, you got to make it, So I think that's the biggest thing is you're surrounded by these great players that have put so much on tape, so many years in the league. And when they instill that trust to you, not just the players, the coaches as well, it's something that, you go out there with the most confidence in the world.
How has that wrestling background helped you out so far in this camp?
Yeah, wrestling's everything, man. And I say it all the time. I owe everything to the sport of wrestling. When I was doing it, I wasn't the biggest fan of it, man. Cutting weight. Tournaments, everything, but I did it. I loved it. I was great at it. And people always say, since I was young, as you can see it in my tape, that I look like I'm out there wrestling, close quarters. And so it's
looking at some of these young players.
It's great, man. Every single year I go back.
Tesla
whenever
has
I'm
done
home,
a great job.
I catch state wrestling finals usually in February, mid-February, and with me and my dad, me and my family always go watch it.
Sometimes in other sports you see hockey teams bringing wrestlers to teach them how to fight.
Okay, so FIP is on. I thought it wasn't supposed to be till 10:45. I'm gonna have to cut to that
100%.
here just a moment.
100%. Inside hands, pad level, leverage, I think that's the biggest thing, and especially, I think the biggest thing for me is that I relay is when I get tired, and I know I'm breathing heavy. I look across the man, he's breathing heavy. I know I got a little bit more than you do. I know I pushed myself a little bit more than you did, and I know if I can take you into them deep waters, as Dan said. Up across from somebody, I know you didn't work as hard as I did. I know you didn't put in 7 days a week for the past 10 years, right? I know you didn't, right? You weren't traveling at 7 years old, spitting in a water bottle with the heater on in the car and a sweatsuit on, your dad yelling at you.
All right, we're going to transition here. I apologize about some of the graphics, but I want to transition to Dayfit.
Dang, we got more mics. Okay, I'm not huge on the opening statements. I know you guys know that, but I give like one a year, so this will be the one. My off season was incredible. Most of you guys heard about most of it. I will start by saying we got 2 kids at the University of Alabama now. Daughter number 2 is down there, so that's great. She's doing well. And we have a son going into sophomore year of high school. Obviously, my incredible wife and their mother has been outstanding, holding down the fort. And then there's 2 other things that happened this offseason, though, that you guys don't know or you know about, but you don't totally know how they affected me. But in 1990, I was a high school student in San Diego, California, and I would have been probably called the king of mischief. I was always in trouble. Just kept me entertained, I guess. And anyways, I read a book that changed my life. It's one of the few books I read from cover to cover. The book was titled From Ashes to Glory. It was written by the University of Colorado. He has Michigan ties. He coached at Divine Catholic High School. His name is Bill McCartney. And in his book, it was a lot about religion. It was a lot about finding God. It was a lot about making good decisions.
Right, you didn't do that. You didn't do it like I did it, right?
And his experiences in football and some of his players, and it really changed my life.
No idea what just happened there. That's extra weird. Let's try again. I have no idea what that was. All right, we pivot. I'll rewind a little bit. Oh, it looks like it was on their end.
And I'm forever grateful, really, for his commitment to the players that he was around. My life was incredible. My life forever. In his book, it was a lot about religion. It was a lot about finding God. It was a lot about making good decisions, and his experiences in football and some of his players. And it really changed my life forever. He obviously passed away this offseason. But the impact that he made on my life was incredible. I only got to meet him one time, is when he signed the book. And I'm forever grateful, really, for his commitment to the players that he was around and to the game of football. Number 2, in 2014, I was at the Philadelphia Eagles, and we're coming off my first season as a coordinator in 2013. We weren't great, and we brought in a player. His name was Brian Brayman. This guy was an amazing player. He played with his hair on fire all the time. He loved special teams. He loved playing the game of football. He loved his teammates. He was ultra passionate. He had come through an incredible journey to get to where he was at, and the obstacles he overcame were incredible. And really, in 2016, I think we let him walk. In 2017, we're making a run for the Super Bowl. We end up bringing him back, and in that Super Bowl, we go up. I think we went up by 8. And there was just under a minute left, and we kick off, and he made the tackle on the kickoff. New England tried to run a reverse. He made the tackle, knocked him down at the 10, and New England couldn't find their way in the end zone, so we won the Super Bowl. He obviously passed away this year, and the guy was just an incredible person, incredible player. And I think when you stand up here as a coach, you stand up here and you often talk about, oh, what a great job. And we get a lot of recognition, but ultimately, you guys have heard me say, this is a player's game, it's a player's league, and I've been fortunate to be around a lot of great players, and he was an incredible one. And he really played the game a different way, and I know that he earned the respect of everybody, and obviously I'm certainly grateful for his contributions, and he passed away this offseason also. So with that, whatever questions you guys got.
Well, it's tough to follow that, but
well, it's kind of my goal. If I just knock this out, then
it was obviously probably pretty good to see Doris back on the field yesterday. Tesla's done some nice things there as a gunner. Rock Ya-Sin, it seems like, do you feel pretty good about what you got for that gunner spot with all the things you've worked out, and then obviously getting Dorsey some guys back?
Yeah, so Dorsey's huge. I mean, this guy is one of the great gunners in the game of football right now, and so obviously getting him back is outstanding. And then just looking at some of these young players, Tesla has done a great job really for us. Lovett shown some things for us on the outside. Meeks has shown some things from the wide receiver position. So we've got some wide receivers who are contributing on special teams, which is beneficial because the last handful of years we haven't gotten a lot out of that group other than Khalif as the punt returner. But for those guys to be able to help out in a core role, potentially could help take some off of some other players. I would say in general, I love this time of year because to that question, you get a chance to evaluate a lot of different players playing a lot of different positions. Tesla, we played inside on kickoff return one week. We played him outside the next week, see where he plays better at. And then you're really working to figure out when the roster is all said and done and they say, here it is, and how can I make the most of any 11 players out there on the field in any particular phase?
With two new coordinators on offense and defense, it feels like there's a lot of talk about that. And then here we sit and watch preseason games and we see a guy like Jack Fox come in and just boom, punt after punt. Just the stability, the consistency of your snap, hold, kick production. I mean, I know there's, other guys on the field that make special teams go, but just how much does that mean to this team?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. You see teams that don't have a kicker, don't have a punter, don't have a snapper, and obviously that's a tough position to be in. I would also say that, like people have asked me from time to time this training camp, are you bringing anyone else in? Is there more competition? And it's like, well, no. Number one, these guys are incredible players. And number two, I think the biggest thing there is when you have the right players and their passion is to be the very, very best player that they can be. And really their passion is to be probably the best player in the league at their position. And so when you got guys that are motivated like that, it makes my job a whole lot easier, and you really don't worry about competition. These guys aren't motivated by competition or somebody next to them. These guys are motivated by trying to be the very best in the world at their craft. And so we're very fortunate to have them.
Just expanding, Dan said you called some of those receivers the blue man group, just some of their special teams prowess, I guess. Can you expand on, what they can do a little bit, why they're so good at it? And then B, we all know special teams, plays a role into roster decisions at the end. But when you have, let's just keep the receivers in mind, as an example, if you have your two gunners set, Dorsey and Tesla, whatever, does somebody who also has that potential, how does that play into the decision? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somebody else can't, but he's not going to be your starter.
So I'll tell you, number one, if a wide receiver like that can play on special teams and help out in a core role, not just a returner role, but in a core role, then really what it does is also takes the pressure off of somebody else on the roster. And I think the goal for me would always be to balance the workload or the weight that you're asking these guys to carry throughout all the phases of special teams and offense and defense. And so if you got a guy who can contribute from a position that maybe doesn't contribute as frequently, then it's a bonus because now somebody else might not have to play that position. Now you can ask him to do something else, so you gain another piece in another phase or area that maybe you wouldn't have without them. So finding offenders who, wide receivers, offenders who contribute is huge for us. And then just in terms of like the roster, the makeup, all that, obviously Brad and those guys do all that stuff. But I think for me, the biggest thing is finding out what everybody can do. And then I think I've told you before, but I think that a good coach ends up taking the group of players that he has and finding a way to make the most of those players and put them in positions that they can be successful at.
You obviously knew Lopez had that background. Meeks and Tesla, they surprised you at all with what they were able to do there?
I would say all of them are really developing players. Like Tesla had the penalty on the kickoff return, so those guys go out there and they make some mistakes, but they also show that, hey, they got some upside and potential too. So I think, I had one of the better special teams players who played for me was a safety, and he told me a long time after, but he said, man, it took me like 4 years until I really felt like I knew how to play the game in the National Football League on special teams, because there's just a lot to it. It's different than any other phase. You're asked to do a lot of different things. A defender's asked to be a blocker also, like an offender. An offender's asked to be a defender, like tackling, and that's like, to the receiver point, we really haven't seen a lot of that yet. Meeks had a chance to tackle the guy or the returner on one punt last week. Tesla really hadn't been in a position to do that. So there's still areas that we're looking to see, can these guys do or how good are they at that? Yeah.
I want to ask about a couple more guys. Grant Stewart and just what you liked about him in that kick return phase and just how he's boosted that unit.
Yeah, so that goes back to kind of the how can we get the most out of these 11 guys. Sometimes I would say necessity is the mother of all invention, right? Like, who's our kick returner? Well, I don't know. Leaf, he's got a big role on offense also. He's our punt returner. He's a little bit smaller body type. The returner back there on kickoffs ends up taking some shots. You want a guy who's going to be able to last and be durable. At the time, Vaki was down early in training camp. We've had Craig Reynolds back there. We're about to get Gibbs back. Oh, I'm just kidding. No, but what happened was in the offseason, I started watching some of his film. Like anytime you bring a player in, you kind of watch everything they've done in the history that we have on film. And there was some film from him at Houston where he was running the ball. And I was like, wait a minute, like this looks pretty good right here. And so that's really what started the idea. And then I was like, man, I'm not sure who the guy's going to be. This is a bigger body guy, physical. It looked like he had some natural skill set to do it. And then we fumbled the opening kickoff. So no, but he showed a bunch of great things, and then it said to us, okay, now we got to invest more time in him to be fair to him and help him with ball security and stuff like that. But it's now worth the investment because of what he's shown. So we're excited about him.
I think you might have hinted at this in a previous answer, but as we come up on roster cut down time, are you a guy that's passive or active in your conversation with Brad? I mean, do you campaign for guys at all behind the scenes, or do you just kind of take it as it comes and worry about it once the 53 is set?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I don't know what the answer would be from their perspective. I know what I try to do. I try to be very level with it. In my early days of coaching, I was a lot more passionate about that, and I would also get a lot more frustrated with those decisions and all that stuff. But I know this, man, the job of making those cut downs and managing the roster and the money and all these things that a coach really doesn't think about is a lot to it. I think the best thing that I can do in my position is just tell or explain to them the repercussions of if we go with this guy and not that guy, well, here are the challenges. It's going to push more weight onto this player, and this player we're asking an awful lot of already. That's going to add more to his plate. We feel comfortable about doing that. If we do, that's great. And so I feel like the best thing I can do is, with my experience, is kind of project what's going to happen and how it's going to affect the makeup of the team on game day when you go down to 48 players. And then that helps them make the decision. And then ultimately, I just put the trust and faith in those guys and making the right decision. And I think for me, and like I said, when I was young, I wasn't not nearly as good at this. But as I've gotten older, it's like, okay, don't worry about that. Just focus on the roster, or just focus on the game. Don't worry about that. Just focus on the game. Look at these players. Find out how can we make the best 11. Does that mean Stewart's a returner? Does that mean, and just figure out a way to get the results. And ultimately, it's a results-based business. Ultimately, really, we live in a results-based world, you know, and it's like people don't care about all the problems, challenges, why it's hard. They just want you to do well with what you got. And they also don't have time to hear people complain, you know, and either do I really, you know. It's like a player complaining about this, that, and the other thing. And, hey, we're going to have to ask you to do something that's hard and maybe not your best thing. But that's what the team needs of you, and that's how we're going to be the best team we can be. And so for me, that's always the focus.
Hogan, Jake, and Jack made a point of getting together this offseason. I believe 8 times they got together and trained. I imagine you like to see that drive and willingness to work together in the offseason, but I'm curious what you know about Nick Novak's camp that they went to.
Yeah, I don't know much about that camp specifically. I know those guys get together a lot. I know they do it at different venues. There's different players like that who've played in this league in the past. I got a lot of respect for Nick Novak, what he's done. But like to answer specifically to that, I don't totally know.
But you like to see those
I love seeing those guys get together and work. I think the more they can do it, the better. I mean, it shows a commitment to their craft, to the game, to the team, the organization, to themselves, trying to be the best that they can be. And like I said, we got the right guys, and so they're all about it.
I know that Coach asked everybody, and maybe the players, I think this was, Grant was telling me, asked them what their superpower was. The other day, were you in that meeting? Was that a team meeting? Do you know, what would your superpower be?
I don't have. I have no idea.
How were you better coach than 5 years ago when you walked through the door here?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I am a good coach. No, the only thing I can tell you is, the only thing I could tell you for sure is I love this game with everything I have in my body, and I cannot believe I'm in front of you guys today. The fact that I am where I am is truly a blessing to me. I grew up dreaming about playing football. I grew up dreaming about coaching football. My high school coach told me there's no way. He said, how do you stretch the field vertically? I'm like, 4 verts. He's like, no, you got to high-low them. I'm like, and he's the guy who said he'd never coach. He did it because he knew I would. And then, yeah, I mean, it's it's humbling. I've been able to paint the fields before the game. I built lockers and locker rooms for the players in college football, 1AA football. And to be sitting here today, and I did it because I loved it, you know. And people say, like, oh, man, you know, how do you get into that business or whatever? And it's like, I didn't get into the business because I wanted to coach in the National Football League or I wanted money or any of those things. I got into the business because I love the game. I love the players. I love being around the players and the game. And I've given everything I have to those guys. And this game has given me way more back in return. So I'm super fortunate and grateful.
Thank you.
All right. Appreciate it.
All right. Dave Fipp, man. This guy is probably the most humble guy out there, I swear. Every time we hear from David Fipp, it's just such incredible conversation that he brings to the table and how important this game really is to him. Let me just give you a quick breakdown. A couple of things in here that were really interesting because I just mentioned this the other day. in my 53-man breakdown. So during my 53-man breakdown, I mentioned how, you know, when you have guys on this roster that can play multiple positions, the versatility obviously is key. We know that. Brad, Dan, every team looks for versatility in players. But when I said that I was having trouble getting down to a 53 and how it was 6 linebackers or 6 receivers versus maybe an extra defensive end or an extra defensive lineman, there's a reason for that. And it was partially because Grant Stewart, who has been returning kicks, playing on special teams, makes this roster simply because he can do that. But, oh, by the way, he's a really good linebacker. Now, who does that push? Does that push Khalif Raymond? Because now you need to keep an extra wide receiver like Jackson Meeks. And so that the same thing that he's talking about here is when you have players that can play multiple positions, and maybe not necessarily it's their position. If it's an offensive position and now you have a defensive player playing that, you might now have extra defensive players on your roster, whereas maybe you would have kept just Khalif Raymond, who doesn't get into the game a whole lot on the offensive side of the ball, primarily back there as a returner. Now maybe you have a shift in momentum where it's Isaac Tesla that's doing some of that work as a gunner, which I didn't realize he was doing that. And Jackson Meeks, who's now working in that same role. And Grant Stewart, who is returning kicks. And by all means, I'm not saying that we don't need an all-pro returner. We do. But it's just an interesting conversation that I said the same exact thing just a couple of days ago, that this roster is getting to the point now where you have multiplicity at positions, and it's really hard to keep certain guys around anymore, especially when you start to look at age, contract, how long you're under contract for, and how you're going to address that position in the future. Obviously, you're worried about right now, today, this season, but you also have to look, what are we going to do for next year? How are we going to start the year, you know, with guys signed or not signed, right? This was the first year that we had, I think, more than 40 guys under contract to start the season. So to kind of recap what he said, he was talking about Tesla being a gunner. There's a lot of versatility, working him on the inside and the outside. There were some penalty issues. He jumped off sides in one of the games. I don't remember which game it was, but he's working through it, right? It's just part of the process. And evaluating this option for Tesla is obviously still getting him a lot of reps because he hasn't been involved in every phase of special teams yet. He has not had an opportunity to make a tackle. Whereas other guys like Dominic Lovett and Jackson Meeks may have already been in that opportunity to make a tackle yet. So still evaluation going on for Tesla. And again, I think it's interesting to put him in as a gunner position. I don't want to see him get hurt, right? Absolutely don't want to see him get hurt. I think he's going to be too valuable to this offense. But then again, it's the multiplicity at your position and being able to work special teams that provides so much value to a guy like him or a guy like Jackson Meeks to make this roster, because now he's on special teams. He's getting utilized. And the one thing that I also said the other day is now you're allowing guys to have less action in the game, keeping them fresh. If you have a guy that's, you know, your 6th wide receiver, he doesn't get a lot of looks in the offense anyway, and now he's solely playing on special teams, but he's there if you need him on offense. That's going to take some snaps away from somebody, let's say Khalif Raymond, or it'll, you know, take some snaps away from Isaac Tesla on special teams. So when they go in on offense, their legs are there, right? They still have more energy. Or a guy like Grant Stewart, again, to kind of recap that whole thing, you know, he started out on kick returns. And why? Because they looked at his tape and they saw back, you know, when he was playing with Houston, that he was running the football. And Dave Hipp thought that looked really good. So if we could teach him how to catch the football from a high catch, now ball security is an issue, right? They got to figure that out for him. But he can run the football. He's fast, right? He's a little bit bigger body, which means he's probably going to bounce off some tackles. You can't arm tackle this guy. But again, putting him in a position that where if he's your 6th linebacker or 5th linebacker or 4th line, whatever it is, probably 4th, that he might get more opportunities to play more special teams as he's not in the defense as often, allowing other guys to have fresher legs. It's really smart what they're doing. Rock Ya-Sin is a gunner and Dorsey is a gunner. So, obviously when I thought that, Dorsey wouldn't be, I just unplugged something, that Dorsey wouldn't be a needed commodity right up front, they obviously want to see him, back on special teams because he was one of the best gunners in the game. I didn't realize he was one of the best gunners in the game. I knew he was good, but I didn't know he was that good. And it was actually in special teams work that he got injured. So Meeks on special teams, I think all these guys are going to get an opportunity to play, to figure out where they belong on this roster. The one thing he also mentioned, which I thought was interesting, as I mentioned it, there was no new competition in camp this year at the kicker position or the punt position, right? Or the snapper position. And he just clarified why. Simply said that they have the right guys. When you have the right players, there's really not a need to add more competition to their plate because he feels that these guys want to be the best in the world, and some of them already are. It's an interesting take. I still think competition is great, but what has that done for this team? It has now allowed Dan and Brad to bring in 3 additional players, not at the kick, punt, or snap position, to see if you can find another, hidden gem somewhere that could make this roster. Smart moves. Very, very smart moves. Balancing the workload now, finding additional guys that already, are on the roster. You gain these players that contribute more, and now a player doesn't have to play multiple positions early or possibly at all. Smart move. Fipp recognizes probably the most important thing out of this conversation that I think he just gave you was that Brad Holmes has a very tough job. When he was asked, how much are you involved in, fighting for your guys, making recommendations on which guys to keep, which guys, maybe not so much, that he recognizes that Brad Holmes has a very tough job, gives some clarity about, which player can do what and how that impacts the roster overall. Kind of going back to what I started with. Well, if you keep this player, he can do X, Y, and Z, but he's also not very involved in the offense because you have, these 3 receivers in front of him. So he's going to give you the ability to keep guys more healthy, right? Better legs in the game. If we keep this guy versus this guy, right? Just the most humble dude in the world, man. Dave Fipp is an interesting character, but we learned a lot from him this year. We did. In that video of him on the Blue Angels flight. I thought that was an incredible video. If you haven't watched it, go find it on YouTube. Just Google Dave Fipp Blue Angels. You'll find it. Extremely good video. So anyway, that's it, man. Interesting stuff tonight. 53-man breakdown. We're going to do it once again. I did it immediately after the game on Saturday. And today I'm going to take you guys deep into the water with why I do what I do and who I see where I see them and how it affects this roster now and later. And tonight I'll actually have my first practice squad added to it. So it should be a good show. Should be a good show. At least it'll be a lot of good information. So again, thank you guys for joining the Rise and Grind Morning Show. Please subscribe on the way out if you haven't subscribed yet. We would love to have you guys part of the Rockdown family. You guys are truly the best parts and the biggest reason why this channel is even alive. From a loyal Lions fan, 27 years, season ticket holder, 40 years watching the Lions, cancer survivor, decided to do more, right? To serve my purpose in this world, to help others the best way I can, whether it's through encouragement or the Cancer Foundation. That's why I do this. Lions obviously is the biggest part of it, and my relationship with, as a fan first, right? It's always, fan-driven style of a channel, and then it's let's do more, right? Let's amplify and help out more people the best way we can. So thank you all for joining. We'll see you guys tomorrow morning on the Rise and Grind morning show. And then tonight, not sure what time, just pay attention to the thumbnail when it gets posted in that time. That should be pretty locked in that we'll get started tonight on time. So you guys have a wonderful day. Probably go to Detroit Lions. You guys have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, 1 2 1 2. 1 2 1 2. Mic check. Hey, can y'all hear me out there? Against all odds. 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 Against all odds.